Meh. Hello all. So we decided to do a little bit of a prediction for the finale of what everyone's talking about, Stranger Things season 5 finale. We watched the Christmas episode release with the 3 episodes on there. That was obviously following the part 1, which I loved. Did you love that as well?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was. I think that it ended well. It got a good build up. I mean, I think it sort of from the end of season 4 to this, it did feel a bit of like a retcon slightly because you sort of jumped ahead in time. But everything ended well and it set it all up, give it some closure, and then we were ready for these 3 episodes. I was super hyped. I don't know about yourself for those 3 episodes. And for me, it's one of those things with these 3. They've really kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah, the first 3 were amazing. The last 3 have been awful. So I predict a disappointing finale. That's what I predict. I think the last 3 episodes felt like just filler episodes, like it's just really lazy writing. All the side characters have had sort of starring roles, and the main characters haven't really seen them at all. And sometimes that's worked, and sometimes it hasn't. But a lot of the cast seem to have had a complete personality transplant as well, which is strange.
Yeah, we're probably going to say strange a lot. I realise that, which is the strangest thing. But yeah, no, I completely agree. It's weird that for everything that's been set up, you'd think by now they were calling this season the Duffer Brothers that it's going to be a bookend for it, and they really haven't left themselves enough time adding even more characters to the plot. I mean, so this is obviously going to be extremely spoiler heavy, by the way, but I think that probably goes without saying, considering what we're talking about. I'd probably like to just point, there's a few things particularly with the part 2 that have been a major issue. I mean, adding Eleven's sister, was it Seven? Is that the 7? I think that's her
Who
designation.
cares?
Yeah, who cares? Exactly. Who cares? Who cares at this point? And then also Robin's girlfriend. I mean, we had Robin's whole story, which was great, handled so well in season 3.
Can I just say,
Yeah,
that's how important she is, that she's going to be referred to in this conversation as Robin's girlfriend, because I can't remember her name. Can you?
I really can't. I mean, I could probably make some guesses, but I probably could make some guesses, but honestly, I can't even be bothered to guess because she had absolutely nothing to offer at all. You know, bringing these characters in, because what they have done well, I'd say there's some mixed results. They've brought characters in and made them grounded. I mean, the great breakout character for this is Dennis. Which he's just been brilliant from my perspective. They've managed to give him a full character arc in such a short space of time, and yet they've had a whole 5 seasons to give key characters these sorts of things, and left themselves 1 episode to complete their arcs.
Well, if we go character by character, I love Derek, so we will get to him. But let me just go back to the girlfriend, because it seems like she was brought in so there was a reason for Robin to go to the hospital, and there was a reason for Will to see some kind of gay relationship, I guess. She hasn't added a single thing to it, but also there's reason for Robin to visit the hospital anyway, because Max was in there. And while we're on characters, we can also, dip in and out the scenes and the stuff that doesn't make sense, because the army was there after Robin for some reason. And then obviously the girlfriend didn't believe the story about the monsters and rah rah rah. And then all of a sudden she sees one coming around the corner. Now that was sort of like a borrowed scene from like the first 2 series, because if you recall, Winona Ryder's boyfriend who died, what was his name? I can't remember. He was in Lord of the Rings, etc. It's almost a scene by like a play-by-play of that scene. Like he's on the floor, he sees footsteps in his shadow, and then is like shocked. Difference being that he gets taken out, and obviously Robin's girlfriend survives. But she's not integral to the plot. I don't think she's just not needed. Like so the most she's spoken was probably in that scene where she was telling Robin, "Oh, I think you're crazy." And then carrying on to that scene, after that scene, she said to Mrs. Wheeler, "Oh, come on, you should be lying in bed. You've got this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah." That could have been done by Robin or Lucas or Max when she woke up to convince Mrs. Wheeler to stay in hospital. Yeah, there's no point in the girlfriend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
I mean, I kind of want to jump onto that really because I suppose we could take this sort of the two additions to the cast because that's what they are at this point. You've got Seven or Eleven's sister and Robin's girlfriend because that is supposed to be their significance. I want to continue on with what you're saying. The impact of Bob, by the way, I think that was what his name was, wasn't it? The Lord of the Rings guy. His character had a massive impact because it was. I mean, they give him a lot more build up, etc. And it's actually in the pain of Joyce, a character that is loved and cared about by the audience, and it makes it's you feel the pain through her. Now, Robin's a beloved character. She hasn't gone all the way to being massively irritating, but she's way too peppy. Like way too peppy, like too joyous. And I know that's probably kind of like morose, but she's not got any stakes really. If they'd have literally that scene where she'd seen her, she'd realised it, and the demo dogs, because in that scene, the demo dogs went straight for the soldiers, fine, whatever, went past her straight for the soldiers, and then a scene later, it was Robin and her girlfriend there, and they ran past her to go up to Max. Now, why didn't they jump onto one of her? Like, it would have been a real brutal thing for her to realise that Robin wasn't lying, for then the demo dogs to jump on her in front of Robin and kill her girlfriend. That would have been completely been unexpected. Would have had a great impact on Robin's character, made her take this a lot more seriously, and broken her to the point where she has to do everything she can to get revenge for killing her girlfriend. If they finally got this relationship together, it would have been so much more impactful.
yeah, it would have been more impactful. If it just feels like it feels like they had loose ends in the script, and to try and tie things together, they've just brought in a couple of characters that otherwise they wouldn't have bothered having. Because as of yet, like I say, the girlfriend is completely pointless. And also when she speaks about it, it's sort of like it's at the beginning stages, and all Robin does is sort of let her down. So I don't know why they would stay together anyway. But yeah, a completely pointless character. Unless they're going to give us something big in the finale. But with the finale being one episode, around 2 hours long, I don't see how they're going to fit everything in. I don't think that the audience will have warmed to her enough to kill her off and make it a big thing. Because even though Robin will be sad and Maya Hawke's a brilliant actress, so she'd play it really well, I don't think that the audience will care enough about Robin's girlfriend. Like I say, don't even care enough to remember her name. But as of yet, she's just been really impactful, really pointless. But onto a positive new character. I can't say his full name because we'd have to bleep it out, but let's call him Dip Derrick. Um, I think he's brilliant. I think Winona Ryder's interaction with him was really good, where she's like, "Oh no, now you're delightful, Derek." It's just so good.
I love
But
that.
yeah, oh yeah, he's brilliant, and I think his little storyline of how he was sort of getting all the kids into like the prayer circle or whatever. Well, not a prayer circle, like what do you call it? Like
Like a little cult.
yeah, like cult circle, and then smuggling them out was just brilliant. And obviously now he's trapped in the upside down and whatnot. But yeah, I think he's been a brilliant addition. And so Robin, I just think I last series she wasn't like this, if I recall. She wasn't so upbeat. She wasn't so non-stop chat, 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 chat. And again, it's personality transplant. It's the same as Nancy, the same as Dustin. It's I can't figure out the timeline either. Like, has it been days? Has it been weeks? Whatever. Because Dustin is like a completely different person. And yes, someone died who was close to him. But if anyone was going to handle that a certain way, it'd be Dustin. And this new attitude he got just doesn't suit him whatsoever. But again,
Yeah,
personality transplant.
yeah. I mean, they could have like had him go against his nature of being optimistic and a positive voice. They should have wrapped this up, this despair side of things, almost like a flip situation. So have Steve be the one that brings it out of him. Great scene. That was one of the few good scenes in the second part. Those 3 episodes was a good scene with him and Steve, where he gets it out of him and he gets him to sort of go back, and then spend the next 2 episodes again, have all this sorted out when he comes back. Have the 2 episodes of Dustin being positive and optimistic again and helping to solve the problems. And then with Robin, she helped well. The world can thank her. I mean, we're obviously going to get to probably the most controversial scene of the whole show, in my opinion. I mean, we'll get to it. Well, it's a moment. We'll get to that. It's like the opposite of what the first part did, which made him look badass, and now it's made the whole thing a bit of a joke. But Robin was instrumental in getting Will to realise that the way to fight this is to accept who he is, and that was a great thing for her character. So she was happy. She was happy that she's got a girlfriend who likes her. So to have killed her girlfriend off early on in the second part would have flipped it. So Robin then would have spent the next episode or two devastated, and devastation turned into anger, and that would have raised the stakes for her because it would have been personal. So she could have been personally invested in taking down Vecna. At the moment, she's just sort of there to provide little quirky comments, look how crazy and wacky and whatever she is. She needs to be sad and angry. I'm sorry, that's the way it goes in these, like the final episodes of something. You need the characters to feel like they care. And at the moment, it's just like a casual break for her, is what it feels like, just hanging out with friends. But no, the world's going to end, and it doesn't feel like that. So they should have killed her character in front of her brutally, like they did with Bob back in season 2. It would have been great, like a great chance for Robin to have character development and stakes. From that one, I think the other one, and this is again because the characters that matter are the main ones, 11, Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Will, and then you've got the sort of secondary but main ones like Joyce, Robin, Steve, Jonathan, that sort of tier, Hopper. they still matter. They still important. Max obviously is more of a main one now, but those are the characters that you matter. So the people that they bring in have to be brought in to be relevant to the characters that people care about. So that's what I wanted to move in on now to 11's sister. Now, from my perspective, not the best actress, really. Absolutely not likable at all. No redemption from the second season. But obviously now she's there hanging around randomly without any cause, just to cause more conflict between Hopper and 11, which we needed to get rid of ages ago. And 11's not had much to do, as you previously said. So use her, kill her off early, at almost the same time as they killed off Robin's girlfriend, to have 11, and then her to reveal to 11 that what the plan is to use 11's blood to make more of the... Well, I mean, I don't even know what you'd call them, because have they even given them a name? Like what one is, 11, what they are? Child soldiers or, telepathic
No, they
soldiers.
have.
There's
No,
no
they
name,
haven't
is
really
there?
said, but I can imagine obviously that's what they're going to be, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
on that point before you carry on. So was Vecna? He was like just born that way, right? Or was he turned? I can't remember.
They haven't actually answered that question. Another problem, they haven't really given too much information. The way the show's set up, I do believe there's a play that has more of this information on how he started. But from the perspective of what they've given us in the show, Henry was originally like this. So it's his one. So they've used his blood, and then this pursuit was to try to find another that had the same thing that he did, which is obviously 11. She's like his next one. So they can use 11's got everything that he had to make more of what made them, because obviously the 11's sister didn't have enough. So then that will give 11 the pain of losing one of her sister, inverted commas, and then knowing that the best, if she stays alive, then there's always going to be a risk going forward that even if they kill Vecna, the military will come after her to use her to try to make the whole thing start again. So that'll make her, which she can keep that secret, she can do what she wants with it, but you don't need that character hanging around with like that miserable expression on her face. It's just a character that's not needed there, because that's stopping 11 from developing as a character. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I also think that's a bit of a plot hole in regards to Stranger Things as well, because why blood? Why not DNA? Why not clone him, replicate him? Why not, make him have children with these people? Because that would be easier and sort of guarantee more of a, that would be easier and that would have more of a guarantee that you're going to produce someone like him than taking his blood. I just think that's a weak storyline. As for Seven, she wasn't likable when she first turned up. Again, I don't see the point in it now, like you say. All she's there is widening the rift between Hopper and 11, which should have finished up last series. For some reason, it's still going, and I think it's boring now, actually. And I sound like miserable about it, but I have really enjoyed this series, especially the first 3 episodes. But to carry on that storyline when it's been overdone for 5 series, and it just needed to be people being honest with each other, and that is run for 5 series and it's still running now. Very boring. The introduction of Seven is sort of widening that rift. But again, they could have done that storyline without her. Now, I always thought that 11 might die, and I always thought, oh, she's going to die, like, sacrificing herself to save the others. They could have done that without the reintroduction of the character Seven. Again, it just seems like more people for no reason. And I really wanted this last series to be about 11 really realizing her powers, because again, it's taken 5 series to get to this point, and the only thing we've touched on at the moment regarding 11 is that she's sort of working on getting her powers better, and she can almost fly now. She can just like jump really high, really far. That should have been going on throughout the series, and then by now she should have been able to sort of bend time and space, in my opinion. But Seven is just going to slow that down again, which is, I think, going to annoy me because I'm sort of over her not reaching her potential. The
And
only
this,
other thing I can really see with Seven is if she has got another ulterior motive, perhaps. But I don't know. Just like I say, it could have all been done without her.
well, that's my issue in terms of that, right? That is the only thing that can make sense of her still being around. Does she have an ulterior motive? And the problem with that is, fine, you could probably do something potentially interesting with it. There could have been maybe a bit more obvious set up last one. I'm wondering if there's actually not even an ulterior motive, that it's just bad writing. But if there is one, why introduce that going into the finale? Another thing to try to fix and to resolve and to address. Another thing. When they've got plenty on the table to fix and address anyway, they just added another one. So now we've got to spend some time of this episode that there's not much time left on trying to figure out, or trying, for her a big reveal like, oh, I've been this one all along or something. But that's just taking away from things. It's not adding anything to it. It's another mystery to solve when they've got plenty to solve and to sort of finalize anyway. That's my.
I I personally wonder if they're setting it up for a spin-off. Because Holly Wheeler in particular has had a lot of screen time, and she's been quite good. She's a good little actress, a good little character. The only thing that's sort of annoyed me about her so far is, again, the sort of bad writing or the lazy writing of when her and Max were going to finally go home, and it just took so long. It was such a long scene for them to finally realise, that we're going home, and then the slow walk that turned into a run and blah blah blah. Otherwise, I do like Holly Wheeler, and I just do wonder if they're setting up some kind of spin-off, like maybe Holly Wheeler takes over from Mike Wheeler, because in the first couple of series, again, Mike was a big character, barely seen him in this series, and when he has been there, he's just always been upbeat. Like, even when his mum was dying in hospital, practically, he was very upbeat. He was like, oh, let's just solve this. He just didn't look worried at all. It was weird. So I do wonder if they're going to set up a spin-off and whether or not it's going to be Holly Wheeler and Seven, or something like that, or they're going to have a spin-off with maybe Seven gets trapped into the abyss with Vecna. But the kind of stuff they're doing in the massive introduction of all these new characters and all these complications, actually, and these widening of stories, does make me think that there is going to be some kind of spin-off, because unless the Sarah Connor actress, is it Linda something in real life? Unless her
Linda
character
Hamilton.
dies, Linda Hamilton, that's it. Unless her character dies, I can fully see a spin-off where Linda Hamilton is going after Seven, and Seven's still got some kind of connection to the real world with perhaps one of the new kids that they've introduced. Otherwise, I don't really know why they are doing it all, because they're not going to fit. It's not going to come together nicely.
And that right there is a.
Definitely the last of its kind. Excuse me, cut that down. Definitely the last of its kind. They have to come good. At the moment, like I say, I can see it being set up for a spin-off. I still think 11 might die. I think 7 might get trapped in the abyss with Linda Hamilton, and a spin-off ensues. I don't know. People that I wouldn't mind dying: Robin's girlfriend, Will's brother, that I can't remember the name of, Nancy. I don't mind if she dies, and Will, I don't mind if he dies. Now, Nancy's also had a personality transplant. Now, the
Yeah,
scene
I
where she
wanted
was with
to. Yeah,
Jonathan,
I was just going to say I wanted to go into that a bit more because now you mentioned Jonathan. Yeah, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to say the scene with Nancy and Jonathan when they were having that realization, again, not something that was completely wrapped up because we know that they're not getting married, but are they still together or have they broken up? I don't know.
Oh wait,
Because, like
wait.
I say,
That's been answered. That has been answered by the Duffer brothers. They've actually
oh,
responded to that question, and do you know what they said? That was their
what?
break. That was their breakup.
Yeah, because I thought they'd broken up, and then I've spoken to people and they were like, oh, it's just like slow down the relationship, but they never actually say the word, so it's sort of open interpretation. But they were never going to stay together. Now, that was a really good scene, actually, and I think Nancy pulled it off. I think Jonathan, I don't think he was a good enough actor to quite pull it off. There was particularly at the end where like they put their heads together and he starts crying. It was just like quite forced, and I thought. But yeah, Nancy's had a personality transplant.
Well, just one thing that I'd also looked and because obviously been reading around the show, and I think it would have been a perfect time for their relationship to end and for things to be finalised. And because obviously they were on that table, and someone suggested like it could have been like a Titanic kind of scene where where there's not enough space for him, and he's unable to get onto the object, and he lets her go on it, so he has to stay in the liquid and ends up dying there, saving her life. So it would have been a really good ending for his character, a painful moment for Nancy. And all around, it just would have made the stakes higher because Joyce has just lost a son, Will has lost his brother, and that was in saving Nancy. That would have just been so much more meaningful and meant a lot more than just some, I don't know, breakup kiss on a table.
Well, they seem very unwilling at the moment to kill anyone. I don't know why, but maybe the shock twist will be that everyone survives, which would be boring. There's been plenty of opportunity, like you've mentioned, for people to die, whether dramatically or with everybody around them or sort of on their own. Mrs. Wheeler, I'm glad that she didn't die because I just think that was a great scene. It's definitely less of an emotional ride. Like the first 3 episodes were brilliantly done. And again, not because I thought there was high emotional stakes, but it was just a brilliant return, done very well. The last 3 were dull in comparison, and that would have been their chance to have these impactful high emotion scenes, but there was just none. It like I say, it just felt like complete filler episodes, and the story just kind of feels like filler bad writing. And yeah, if okay, so if we're on about scenes, there's one in particular we've got to talk about, right?
Well, I mean, this really is right. I would say everything we've discussed so far, it's got elements to it that are nitpicky, that can be interpreted, that can be down to personal choice.
Yeah, everyone knew that Will was gay. From the first episode, we knew that Will was gay. And what series was it where he had that scene when he was in the car with Mike and they were talking about liking people that they couldn't really have or
Yeah,
something like
that
that, and
was
then he
season
turns away
four,
like,
and that was season 4 in
yeah,
the car, and that was a lovely scene. It was sweet, and I felt for him, and he's like, oh, bless him, he was his friend. You kind of at this point, because that season was so strong, and that was a brief, small moment. He had the moment with his brother Jonathan, where Jonathan was basically telling him, without telling him, that it's okay to be different. So he's telling him that it's okay. So we had all these, and we had the moment where, his badass moment at the part 1 of season 5, where he just like basically becomes the sorcerer, or what they call it, all that perfectly built up, him having his discovery that this is what it is, and then in season 5, great. Now, then I suppose, yeah, you'd maybe want to tell some characters potentially that this is what's happening, this is where it's gone. So the first episode back after part 1, then yeah, great. Get a couple of them, tell a couple, something like that, have a little scene, a small scene, and then move on. And that's it. Will's gay, everyone knows, and he's a sorcerer. Now Will's got his galvanized, now it's all on the job. It's about killing Vecna, right? Great. So I didn't even see this scene coming. But to put it, literally right at the very end of the penultimate episode to the finale, and not just put it there, but make it like 10, 15 minutes long, like a quarter of the episode. Slow acting, everything was so drawn out. And it's bad enough that it was like this, right? Again, this is stuff I can certainly relate to, given I've had to have moments like this personally. Um, have everyone there, the cast assemble. Who was this for? Because the reaction You know, I came out 20 years ago, and that was 15 years after the show was finished. The show was set. To have nobody respond in any negative way, or even, you know, in even any questioning way, or confused way, or any way at all, as friends, you know, the sensibilities. I mean, Hopper, Joyce, they would have been born in the 40s, and they're just okay with it. Everyone is. It makes no sense. As friends, as male friends, you know, fair enough, they're a bit nerdy and a bit more open-minded. Steve is a jock, fair enough, he's a jock with a heart or something. Nobody had any negative reaction. No one stormed out. No one questioned it. This was at the height of the AIDS crisis, was when it was set. There'd be people you can still tell today that wouldn't have taken it as well as all those did. Whatever, by the by. Anyway, even if they wanted everyone to accept it, why on earth have they put it 15 minutes just as the episode's going to end, when we're about to like finally start saving the world or whatever? To put that there, for me, it did not feel like important for the story or the character. That felt like the writers were trying to give the actor, the Noah kid, like his own sort of stage, and to educate the audience. And it was really poorly done.
Yeah, it was poorly done, but I also don't think that he's a good enough actor to have pulled it off, to be honest. I think he's had a lot of screen time in this last series, and I honestly don't think he's a good enough actor. I think he's actually the weak link in the chain in regards to all these actors that started off as children and have now grown up. I think they're all good. Some are better than others, but I do think that Will is possibly the worst. So to give him that much screen time and that sort of story arc is beyond me. I thought that he might come out to Robin, because obviously he'd seen that Robin was a gay woman. Um, he'd been asking her questions very sort of gently, so I thought it was going to build up to him coming out to her, which again would have made more sense. But yeah, to come out to the whole group in the way that he did, which again, like you say, very drawn out. The same as the Max and Holly returning home scene, very drawn out. Everything is just so drawn out. It was just absolutely pointless. And you know it's bad when gay people who the scene's aimed at think it's bad. Now, yeah, I agree completely. It wasn't poignant. It just ended up being weird. Like, it was just weird and cringe. Like I say, it would have been probably better if he'd had that kind of scene with just Robin, which is where I thought it was heading. But to have it with everyone, and like you say, everyone's just completely accepting of it and whatever, it sort of does ruin it a little bit, because the show is supposed to be dramatic. And that was a dramatic scene, but for all the wrong reasons. It was dramatic because the acting was bad and it was badly written. And you sort of knew that everyone was going to be okay with it because, well, because you can't dislike a character, can you? By the end of the last episode, if he'd have had pushback from anyone.
And yeah, that's the thing. So what I think is going to be super interesting, because there's a bit of poetry here. By the end of the first part, sorry, everyone was like saying, "Oh my God, that was an amazing scene. Will's so cool, such a cool thing." And I was down for that. I agreed. I even liked the little montage that they did in his head, going back to his memories. I thought it was so well done. That's what I mean. They already had the achievement of that, and making you feel like, oh, he just needed to realize who he was. That's the thing. Don't make it about his sexuality. Make it about him accepting himself. That's where the beauty of it is. Not a public display of narcissism, which is what it was. So he's going to have all this, like this. I'm talking about Noah, the actor. Well, yeah, I did so well. People like loving me online now, and like this, and which is great. Fair enough, whatever. It was a good scene. But then now it's become a joke. Have you seen all the memes that they've done? And they're really good, by the way. They're really funny. When the memes become better than your show, then you're in trouble. And that's what's kind of happened. So the he's going to go from all those highs to the whole internet, you know, which is, make of that what you will, has turned on him, turned on the whole thing, made the whole thing a joke because it was a joke, because they treated the audience like a joke.
I have seen the memes, yeah, and they're all funny. How can it not be like that? And like you say, it's a shame really, because everyone, when he got his powers, everyone couldn't believe it. They thought it was a really good character arc. I even watched a clip of them doing their first table read where they were reading the part where Will got powers, and the whole cast that was there was like shocked themselves and like really happy. And to go from that to what's just happened. And it's just a mockery now. You just made a mockery of the whole thing. He had power. He, like you say, accepted himself. He could have come out if he wanted to Robin, even though the whole audience watching it already knows he's gay from the previous scenes that have happened. It
He didn't have to
unless
come
they
out.
have.
He didn't have to come out at all. Ultimately, we know we'd seen a little montage in his head, and in fact, it would have made him stoic and a strong character who doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. That would have been a lot more interesting and a lot more impressive if he just kept that to himself and spoke. You know, he could have come out. You could have had a little scene at the end where he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm gay," and then just walks off to make it like a funny throwaway joke after the world's been saved. But he could have kept that in. Could have known what the power was. He could have had one little scene with Robin say, "Thank you for helping me realize who I was," and then that would have made him like really masculine, actually, very strong, very kind of. And he's gay. We know he's gay. Not everyone in the cast, probably the group know he's gay, but he knows. All he has to do is accept himself and move forward, and that's it, and just park it. That would have made him more impressive as a character if he just kept it, because he knew, and we knew, and he didn't need to have. But then he made it about himself. Everyone needs to listen to this. No, we don't. Go away.
Yeah, it's like I say, unless they have an amazing finale, I think the only thing people are going to remember from this entire series is that scene because it's so laughable.
Yeah. Well, this is what I think I said to you. But you told me that it took them 12 hours to film that scene. 12 hours to film that scene, and then they had to do reshoots on top of it, and then all sorts of things with it. So I think the whole thing was like 20 hours for that. For basically what to me has ruined the show. It's on the same level as where Danny burns down King's Landing. That's the level of ruining it's done, where you can't really come back from it. I think it's probably more likely to come back from it than Danny burning that down, because that was huge. That what they need to do now is they need to completely ignore it. You couldn't ignore Danny burning down King's Landing. With this, you can just ignore it, just move on, But it's
But
ruined.
I don't think it's over yet. I think in the finale, because he made a big point of saying when Vecna gets into your mind, whatever, he shows you things, shows you futures, and blah blah blah, and that's why he's come out. So I don't think we've heard the last of it. I think there might be some sort of like Will Vecna showdown in the finale where he brings it up again and goes, "You can't hurt me now. Everybody knows the truth." Or
Oh my
whatever it
God,
is. I don't think it's over.
don't say that. Oh no, I hope not. I don't want any more Will Gay moments. I just don't want any more.
Oh, come on. It's got to happen because Vecna's going to take over. Vecna and Will are going to meet again somehow. And he's going to say something like that to him,
Oh,
right? It's probably,
I've got a thought. I've got a thought. They're all going to save the day, right? And it's going to be like they're going to then Will and Eleven are going to grow up, and you're going to see them a few years that time, and they're going to move into like the big city. Will's going to become a lawyer, and then Eleven's going to get use the name Jane again, and then she's going to become like a fashion designer, and it's going to an interior designer, and they're just going to be Will and Jane.
it might even be worse than that because don't forget that you can't have a villain these days without giving them a redemption arc. We saw that in Hocus Pocus 2. We saw that in Maleficent. Now we've started to see that now. So we're seeing Vecna be used when he was a child to murder people, obviously. Also, very lazy writing because when they went down that mine shaft and you saw Vecna sort of finish off that guy with a rock, why was he crying about doing that? Because they only noticed him because he killed his entire family. So why is he now upset? And,
That's
again,
what I mean. It's
lazy
like
writing.
these are all things. So what needed to happen? These 3 episodes, all the good stuff, and there is good stuff, even in these 3-week episodes, there's some really good stuff. All of that could have been split, condensed down to half. Start making things long, get rid of the will scene, operate like a little tiny thing at the start of the first episode, shrink it all down, and have it all wrapped up in an episode and a half. Then the last half of the second episode and the third episode will be all about answering these questions, piecing Henry's history together. What are these kids, the military using these kids to do? What is the grand plan? More about the Upside Down, more about Planet X or whatever they call it, the Abyss, Dimension X. Give us these answers. Have the characters have their moments, kill some off as well, and set up the last scene where it's like the final stand. Don't waste time with these overly long stuff. All those questions that you've got about Vector, about how it all fits together, haven't been answered, and they can't do it. You can't answer all the questions that they've got. Plus, you have all of the characters, their payoff moments in 2 hours. You just can't do it.
You certainly can't do it well. But yeah, so what I was going to say before, just to bring it back, was like, so they've already started on a redemption arc for Vecna. Perhaps in the end he comes really good, and in 10 years' time starts dating Will. Who knows? And apologizes for making him feel anything other than accepted, and tells him he did it because he was bullying him, because he was jealous, because he's actually gay inside himself and he couldn't tell anyone. Who knows? But
And then Nancy ends up with Robin because Vic, that is a girlfriend. Oh, it's come back to me. I think her name's Vicky. We'll just call her Teamy Molly Ringwald. So Teamy Molly Ringwald, right? She just realizes actually no, she is straight. So she goes off with Steve and has how many kids does Steve want? Like 6 or 7, and they go live on a
six,
farm.
yeah,
Yeah, so they go live on a farm. They have like 6 or 7 ginger kids, like the Weasleys,
with big
and
teeth and big massive eyes.
with massive eyes. And then Nancy and Robin end up moving to, I don't know, Chicago. And then Nancy's a hardline journalist, and then they campaign for gay marriage.
Yeah, and then they ring everybody else up and they stop what they're doing with their lives and immediately go over to Chicago and also campaign for gay marriage, because that's what happened in the 80s and 90s America,
Yeah, that was it. That was
clearly.
90s America. Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so finale, okay, I think that Vecna and Will are going to have another face-off slash conversation. He's going to say the proverbial, "You can't hurt me anymore. Everyone knows the truth." Blah blah blah.
Right,
11 and
if that comes up, right, no matter what time it is here, no matter whenever, I'm going to send you the angriest voice you've ever seen, because I think I'm just gonna
it's
like,
gonna happen.
have you seen the meme from that? What's it from? The what's it? Inside Out movie with the little anger, and he just like his head
Mm.
blows on fire. I think that's what'll happen to me.
Mm. Well, I think as well, I think there's going to be like a really cringe 11 moment with Vecna where she's probably going to be like, "I'm not alone anymore. I have all my friends, and that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I will defeat you and do that." That's what I predict. I'm not sure if I predict any deaths anymore. I do predict a possible spin-off. I do predict that they're going to wrap stuff up. However, I don't think it's going to be done well at all, because I think they're out of time. Unless, well, they've already said that it's going to be 2 hours and it's going to be one episode. So there's just not going to be enough time. It's going to be, I think it's going to be underwhelming, to be honest.
They needed 2 full episodes and a 2-hour episode to have done all the rubbish that they've done these last 3 episodes, where it's all, like you say, a lot of it was so much filler. Fine, do that if you want to, but you're going to have to pay it back, and the way to pay it back is to give us the plot and the story and the answers. And then you did another 2 episodes and then the feature-length finale. That I would have been a lot less concerned. I still had some like, okay, well, if that part was weak. That strong part, that was a weak part, but there's enough here and time to kind of piece things together. But the fact that there's not going to be any more episode closes, it's the end. And this is the feeling that it's left on, that the second to last scene was Will telling everyone that he was gay. I mean, why do we care? So, yeah, not got good feelings. But I think hopefully we're going to do another video at some point, actually. Have you got anything more to add to this one? Yeah.
Just that the first 3 episodes were brilliant. These last 3 have been underwhelming, and I haven't got high hopes for the finale, but that might be good because they might really surprise me, but we'll see.
We'll see. That's for certain.
Oh, actually, one last thing that was a real bugbear of mine is, if you're going to get Linda Hamilton, put Linda Hamilton in it.
Oh,
They could
yeah.
have got any actress for that role. To get one that's so tied with sci-fi history, and then to
80s.
put her in it for like 10 minutes, what's the point?
Absolutely agree. Yeah, we need more Linda Hamilton is always going to make everything better. But yeah, so I think we'll land that there. As I said, we hopefully should have another video for you as well soon, looking at the last year and a little roundup since, so stay tuned for that. Like, comment and subscribe if you can, and let us know your thoughts on how you think it's going to end. All right, folks, we'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
Bye.